Pattern recognition is often celebrated as a hallmark of intelligence, the ability to detect regularities, anticipate outcomes, and derive meaning from complexity. Yet this ability is not as autonomous or reliable as it appears. Its effectiveness is deeply constrained by the breadth and depth of knowledge available to the mind. When an individual lacks exposure to multiple disciplines, pattern recognition becomes narrow, distorted, and at times misleading. What seems like insight may, in fact, be an artifact of incomplete understanding. At its core, pattern recognition operates through comparison. The mind identifies similarities between present stimuli and past experiences, forming connections that guide interpretation. However, these comparisons are only as rich as the database they draw from. A person limited to a single domain, be it science, history, or psychology, inevitably constructs patterns within that confined framework. As a result, they may perceive coherence where none exists or fail to detect deeper structures that span across domains. For instance, political events may appear chaotic without historical context, while economic policies may seem irrational without an understanding of incentives and human behavior. The absence of interdisciplinary knowledge also leads to overgeneralization. When the mind lacks diverse reference points, it tends to stretch limited patterns to explain a wide range of phenomena. This creates a false sense of clarity. A psychological explanation might be applied to economic behavior without considering systemic constraints, or a scientific model might be used to interpret social dynamics without accounting for cultural variability. In such cases, pattern recognition becomes reductionist. It simplifies reality at the cost of accuracy. Another critical limitation arises from the mind's inherent biases. Human cognition is not a neutral processor of information. It is shaped by prior beliefs, emotions, and cognitive shortcuts. Without exposure to multiple perspectives, these biases remain unchecked. The mind begins to reinforce its own patterns, selectively attending to information that confirms existing views while ignoring contradictory evidence. This creates a closed loop where perceived patterns gain strength not because they are true, but because they are unchallenged. Moreover, the lack of engagement with diverse fields restricts the ability to distinguish between signal and noise. In a complex world saturated with information, news, data, opinions, meaningful patterns are often subtle and embedded within layers of irrelevant details. Interdisciplinary knowledge acts as a filtering mechanism, enabling the mind to contextualize new information and assess its significance. Without this, individuals may either overlook important patterns or become overwhelmed by trivial ones, mistaking randomness for structure. Philosophically, this limitation has profound implications. Many fundamental questions about truth, morality, society, and human nature cannot be adequately addressed within the confines of a single discipline. Philosophy requires synthesis, the integration of insights from science, history, economics, and psychology. When pattern recognition is constrained by limited knowledge, philosophical inquiry risks becoming detached from reality. It may produce elegant arguments that lack practical relevance or fail to account for the complexities of human existence.